Calia and Turalyon currently control most of the Eastern Kingdoms. They're pulling all the strings, and what they both have in common is that they're not your regular light followers. Both were transformed and lightforged directly by a powerful Naru, having their DNA completely changed, making them susceptible to being turned on a switch. Of course, no indications of them being evil yet, but there were also no indications Yrel would become the evil Light Emperor either, and that she would enslave all of Draenor. Interesting enough, Anduin was just cited in 10.2.5, and Genn didn't actually want to inform Turalyon for some reason. What if the real reason Anduin lost his light isn't because he did bad things, but because he understood that he was a pawn of the light as much as he was a pawn of the jailer, and he no longer believes in this cosmological force. This has been a controversial theory for a while, but are we actually in for a light evil scenario on Azeroth? If you guys want to buy Total War, Elder Scrolls, or any other game, you can get them at great prices with my Gamivo link. You can also get anything Warcraft related, gift cards and software, and all below market prices. Best of all, if you add my code DORON, you can get an even bigger discount, so make sure to check out my link in the description and get some amazing deals with Gamivo. I know what you may be thinking, wow, yet another Turalyon bad, what if the light is evil theory. I agree, I mean this really is getting super old, and it has been something we've been talking about for years now with nothing really happening, but some new changes happened since the War Within announcement and 10.2.5 that I do think we should take into account that kinda shifts the whole perspective. So just for the start, consider this. The Alliance is currently being led by Turalyon, with him holding great power at the lower part of the Eastern Kingdoms, and all the way at the outer part of the Eastern Kingdoms, Calia is ruling the Forsaken, that just almost single-handedly returned Gilneas to the Worgen, as if she's almost coordinating with Turalyon. And you gotta keep one thing in mind. These two incredibly powerful figures are not priests, they're not paladins, they're not light followers or anything of the sort. They are light enhanced characters, two hand-picked characters directly enhanced by very powerful Naru. Like literally, they changed their DNA to the core. Turalyon was said to have long past mortality, and the only reason he's alive is because Zera blessed and lightforged him personally, similar to how she tried to do the same to Illidan. On the other hand, Calia actually died and is literally the only light-forged undead in existence that we know of. A powerful Naru literally came down and resurrected her personally through Anduin. Just for the context, keep this in mind, I mean half of Lordaeron died, so many powerful characters, so many devoted light followers, Uther, Therion, yet none of them were resurrected by a Naru or handpicked personally or lightforged. So I know this may be a little bit out there, but seeing that the light is sort of ever-knowing, I mean remember how Velen can see the future and he's empowered by Naru? What if they knew they would come in positions of power in the future, as that is why they decided to bless them in order to have pawns in powerful places they could later turn to their side. They might have also seen Illidan doing something big in the future that we're yet to see, which is why they tried to lightforge him as well. I know immediately like what you may be thinking, I mean sure, could be possible, but this light evil thing is not really based on anything. There have been zero indications that Turalyon or Calia are bad or have barely shown any sort of like crazy fanaticism. However, I want you to keep one thing in mind. Do you guys remember Yrel? You know, Yrel, the crazy light emperor from alternate Draenor that had destroyed most of the planet and enslaved and lightforged all the races by force, like you had no choice, either you want to join the light or not. Do you guys remember like any indications that something like this would ever in like a million years happen? Well, I don't, and I think the reason for that is that the light and the Naru in particular are able to activate this when they need to, and then they're going to change in an instant, and if that happens, we are kinda screwed. If this does happen, we got two most powerful figures on the Eastern Kingdoms setting the ground for a light invasion. We already know a void invasion is definitely coming in midnight. We know the light is going to join in on the fight, but I don't feel like the light is going to come and save us. I think they're going to come to fight the void, and we might just be in the way. I know this might once again be a little bit out there, but let me mention a few things they have just added to the game that might be a further indication of this. First of all, obviously you know the light humans and light crystal are going to be a huge part of the War Within, and personally I think this is also going to be the transition to midnight because the invasion is happening through the Sunwell, which is technically Naru empowered. Now without a doubt, the light crystal is 100% something Naru light related. At this point in time we can of course only speculate, but but we could also use old lore to kind of connect the dots. First of all, the light is not just a savior, the light is definitely a predatory force. We had seen this on multiple occasions. One is that Zera tried to lightforge Yrel by force, second is they imprisoned Illyria for even trying to understand the void. Most importantly, we got a hint from the Shadowlands where we had Revendred, an entire portion of the zone that was ravaged by the light directly, like permanently damaged. The lore states that this was a revenge attack for the Netherese trying to install his Netherese agents into the light, but it just goes to show you that the light can also be offensive as well. I mean, the document stated that they decided to put the Netherese in his place. Now, another really important thing from the past is the Naru themselves. You all know the void and the light cycles and how a Naru as a pure being of the light can turn into a complete being of the void. One of the triggers for this mechanism is when a Naru is injured, and then, over time, it slowly transitions into a void god. Well, what we can see is the light crystal in Castlegar slowly started flickering into a void being and is very close to completely turning into pure void. Like, they very clearly stated that eventually it might just completely turn into the void. Now, one of the theories is that this could really be an injured Naru that is slowly turning into a void god, and that the reason it got there is because the light might have invaded Azeroth at one point in ancient history and we never really knew anything about it. The other theory is that Xel'Atath could have had her hands in this and is the one that is corrupting the shard and filling it up with the void, which is definitely also possible. If this is not a Naru, it could be one of those original light shards, as the Chronicle stated that when the universe was created, light shards were flung all across the universe and they reached a whole bunch of planets. However, it is clear the light can be quite bad and only has one singular goal, like the goal, the right way, which is of course their way. I think the only reason we've seen mostly the good side of the light until this point is because cosmologically it aligns really well with life, so generally we have the same goals, but when these goals start colliding, which I think they will soon, we will see their true face, much like how we're going to see the true face of the Titans. Another interesting fact is that Calia was specifically resurrected by a Naru called Sara, that is the only Naru that we know of that managed to revert back from this void god cycle into the light one. I don't really know how to pinpoint that exactly, but I do feel like that is going to be relevant soon as well. However, back to the data, we had recently gotten actual information on Anduin and some on Turalyon in 10.2.5. Originally, Anduin's sighting and the search for Genn was seen at the start of the Dragonfight, and now we got a follow up on his return, and Genn was informed that Anduin was sighted around Ratchet, and all of this seems like a setup for the War Within, as he's obviously going down to Silithus, which will happen in the expansion, which we can see in the cinematic. However, what I find incredibly interesting is that when asked whether to inform the King of the Alliance Turalyon about Anduin, they didn't want to do it and they wanted to wait. Now, whether this was strictly for technical reasons, as in they don't want to bother the king with incomplete information, I think it is hard to say at this point in time. However, there could definitely be more to it. You all know and can see from the War Within cinematic that a huge start to the storyline is about Anduin and him losing his powers of the light. What is also interesting is that, as the previously stated, a Naru was involved in the resurrection of Calia Manatil, but it was actually Anduin Bryn who had done the resurrection and created her, essentially doing the bidding of the Naru. Now, what if the reason Anduin lost his powers isn't because he feels bad for what he had done in the Shadowlands and he's doubting himself, but what if he's really doubting the light and what the light really stands for? Like his time with the jailer and him understanding how the universe really works, which is a really unique perspective that barely anyone else has, and it has opened his eyes that he was a pawn of the light as much as he was a pawn of the jailer, and he didn't even know about it. Now, if Anduin really has this perspective, well, that is not exactly something Turalyon would want him spreading, as that would completely undermine his goal and the goal of the light. Also, keep in mind, Anduin is actually a priest or even a paladin at this point in time. He isn't actually lightforged by Naru, while Turalyon has like his DNA rewritten by the light, and he's definitely working for them directly. This means that one is a direct servant that can very easily be turned into a pawn. Furthermore, we recently had the Scarlet Crusade leader turning into a huge light elemental monstrosity and proclaiming that the light will purge our stain from the world. Very similar language and wording that a cosmological force would use, kinda similar to exactly what the Titans would say. The only contradictory bit is that Calia has been fighting these guys, the Scarlet Crusade, even though by this theory, I mean, they should be on the same side. However, as I said, I don't think Calia is evil, at least currently, but I do think it is entirely possible she could be turned on a switch, which is why there have been no actual, like, evil indications. Also, the Light might have realized that the Scarlets are useless, so they let them get destroyed, as Calia is a much more powerful player they could use. However, even the Scarlet stuff kinda supports this theory. Like, by all accounts, they're evil, they're fanatical, but they still use the Light to a great degree. Like, you don't need to be good or virtuous to use the Light, you just need to believe it is the one force and the only way forward, so there's really no type of morality to be able to use the Light. This is why I think Anduin actually lost his powers. Like, Scarlet's he done a ton of terrible things over the years as well, but the difference is that through the Jailer, Anduin might have realized that he was a pawn of the Light this entire time. Now, I don't necessarily think the Light is going to turn evil. Personally, I think there's going to be a split and we will get the actual good side of the Light and the fanatical one. Remember, Lotraxion is still a very powerful agent. Yrel can be used as well, but there are good sides of the Light too. It is also possible that agents like Lotraxion may try to convert Turalyon and Calia, but they fail and the plot gets exposed. However, something big with the Light will 100% be happening soon. Thanks for watching. Check out how crazy Azeroth's prison mechanism really is by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on ancient Greek colonies in Spain by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.